All right. I'm gonna get this also on. Let's see. All right. I'm gonna get this all. I hear myself again. Oh boy. Let me get some of the video ready real quick because we're gonna watch some of the impeachment proceedings again while I play. I'm gonna try playing some DSP, some Dyson Sphere program. Um, That's actually really funny that the game is the acronym for the game is DSP. Honk honk snort snort. It's a fun time. It's a fun time. But it's also I'm gonna play some Shadowbringers in between because I'm gonna do my dailies real quick while I play through this and we listen to the impeachment trial.
You're not going to have a country anymore.
I want to listen to the part because I stopped right before I started my stream, and we're going into their dismantling or rebuttal to Trump's argument that what he was engaged in was his rights as a American citizen under the First Amendment, and they're spurging out about that. So that's good. That's good.
Excuse his incitement to this insurrection, and Mr. Neguse will begin.
Mr. Neguse. What a silly Neguse. Oh God, wait, that might be, oof.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, good afternoon. You have heard over the course of the last several days overwhelming evidence that President Trump incited an insurrection. But as lead manager Raskin mentioned, as we prepare to close, we'd be remiss if we didn't just briefly address the principal defense that the president will offer to excuse his conduct, and that is this notion that he can't be held accountable for what happened on January 6th because his actions are somehow protected by the First Amendment. Now, let's stop a moment and try to really understand the argument that they are making. According to President Trump, everything he did, everything we showed you that he did, was perfectly okay for him to do, and for a future president to do again. And the Constitution, apparently, in their view, forbids you from doing anything to stop it.
You have created a mining machine to achieve
That
ore
can't be
collecting
right.
automation.
It can't be.
Pick it up from the inventory.
And it isn't right.
Or select it on gathering of construction menu
Their
to build
argument is meant as a distraction. They are concerned not with the facts that actually occurred, the facts that we've proven, but with an alternative set of facts, where President Trump did nothing but deliver a controversial speech at a rally.
Which is arguably
Of
what
course,
he
that's
did.
not what we've
It's not
charged
really
in
even
the articles of impeachment.
controversial. It wasn't
And
even
it's
like a
not what
controversial speech, to be honest.
You will hear from my colleague, lead manager Raskin, the many myriad reasons why this argument that they make is wrong on the law, completely. Not just around the edges. They make major, fundamental mistakes of constitutional law, the kind that lead manager Raskin tells me wouldn't cut it in his first year law course.
The argument that would cut it, though, is that the Senate has the ability to the House has the ability to impeach a person who doesn't have a office, and that an impeachment, even though it is for the president, wouldn't be presided by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Yeah, that would fly in his first year law class. That yeah. The law basically means whatever you say it means at the time. Okay.
Which, of course, he certainly would know, since he has taught this subject for decades.
Appeal to authority fallacy.
And that explains why so many lawyers who've dedicated their lives to protecting free speech, including many of the nation's most prominent conservative free speech lawyers, have described President Trump's First Amendment claims as, quote,
Energy is
legally
required in all
frivolous.
activities. If it is
It's another
depleted,
quote from a
the
recent
activities will be
letter
restricted.
to prominent
You can
free
click the
speech
Make a
lawyers
Panel button at the bottom
that,
right
quote,
of
the
the
First
screen
Amendment
to
is
open
no
the Make a
bar
Panel
to the
and
Senate
resupply fuel
convicting
into the fuel chamber.
former President Trump and disqualifying him from holding future office. Their argument is wrong on the facts, wrong on the law, and would flip the Constitution upside down.
Oh boy, let's hear it.
Let's start with the facts. Because as you'll see, his free speech claim depends on an account of what he did, of why we're here, that has no basis in the evidence. To hear his lawyers tell it, he was just some guy at a rally expressing unpopular opinions. They would have you believe that this whole impeachment is because he said things that one may disagree with. Really?
Yeah.
And make no mistake, they will do anything to avoid talking about the facts of this case. That I can assure you. Instead, we expect they will talk about a lot of other speeches, including some given by Democratic officials, and they will insist with indignation that the First Amendment protects all of this as though it were exactly the same.
Yeah, it does.
We trust you to know the difference because you've seen the evidence that we've seen.
Wind turbines.
You've seen, as
You have
we've proven
established
over the
your
last
first power
3
grid.
days,
Not all
that his
power
arguments
facilities has its
completely
power supply.
misdescribe
Use
the
the Tesla
reality
tower
of what
to extend the
happened
area of the
on
power grid.
January 6th. They leave out everything that matters about why we're here and what he did. Because President Trump wasn't just some guy with political opinions who showed up at a rally on January 6th and delivered controversial remarks. He was the President of the United States,
What?
and he had spent months, using the unique power of that office,
You have done building the
of
first power
his
transmission
bully
facility,
pulpit, to
Tesla
spread
Tower.
that big lie
It can
that the
carry out
election
short-distance
had been
wireless
stolen,
power
to convince
transmission and expand
his
the power
followers
supply area
to
of the
stop
power
the steal,
grid.
to assemble
on
them
it to
just
view the
blocks
current power
away
grid
from
information.
here on January 6th, at the very moment that we were
You can use the
meeting
R
to
key to
count
rotate the
the
mining
electoral
machine for covering
vote
more
college
veins.
votes, where
The
he
more
knew,
veins
where it
covered,
had been
the faster
widely
the ores will be
reported
gathered.
that they were primed
If you want to
and
ignore
eager
grid snapping,
and ready for
try holding
violence
down the
at his
shift key.
signal. And then, standing in the middle of that explosive situation, in that powder keg
Dude, this guy's about to
that he had
cry.
created over the course of months, before a crowd filled with people that were poised for violence, at his signal, he struck a match. And he aimed it straight at this building, at us. You've seen all that evidence. There's no denying it. That's why the House impeached him. That's why he's on trial. No president, no matter their politics or the politics of their followers, conservative, liberal, or anything else, no president can do what President Trump did. Because this isn't about politics.
Kind of
It's
is.
about his refusal to accept the outcome of the election and his decision to incite an insurrection. And there's no serious argument that the First Amendment protects that. And it would
Yes,
be
there is.
extraordinarily dangerous for the United States Senate to conclude otherwise. To tell future presidents that they can do exactly what President Trump did and get away with it. To set the precedent that this is an acceptable, now a constitutionally protected way to respond to losing an election. And you'll notice something Certainly something.
You know, it's
Mr.
funny.
Raskin
I don't
and I
remember
think
the
should fit.
Senate's power
By all
being
accounts, it doesn't
to
appear that
approve of
President Trump's
what the
lawyers
Constitution
disagree.
says.
I mean, they don't insist that if the facts we've charged, the facts that we have proven, the facts
remember that
supported
being in the
by
Constitution.
overwhelming evidence are true, as of course you now know they are, that there's nothing you can do. They're not arguing that it's okay for a person to incite a mob to violence. At least I don't think they're arguing that. Instead, what they are doing is offering a radically different version of what happened that day, totally inconsistent with the evidence. And then they insist
They
that
didn't
if
say
that
Trump is a meanie poo-poo
fictional
head,
version of
therefore it's
events, if that
incompatible with the
alternate reality
evidence.
were true, well then he may be protected by the First Amendment. That's their argument. But you are here to adjudicate
You're gonna
real
meet
evidence.
Assad?
real facts, not hypothetical ones. And for that reason alone, you should reject their
These people
argument,
have
because it
perverted
has
the
been
concept of
advanced
facts.
to defend a situation that bears no resemblance to the actual facts of this case. With that, I want to turn it over to my colleague, Lead Manager Raskin, to address the many legal flaws, as I mentioned, in President Trump's position.
So Mr. Neguse just explained why President Trump's last-ditch First Amendment arguments got nothing to do with the actual facts of the case. He's been impeached for
Got nothing to
inciting
do. That's a
violent
good
insurrection
education you got there,
against
champ.
the government. Incitement to violent insurrection is not protected by free speech. There is no First Amendment defense to impeachment for high crimes and misdemeanors.
Yes, there is.
The idea itself is absurd. And the whole First Amendment smokescreen is a completely irrelevant distraction from the standard of high crimes and misdemeanors governing a president who has violated his oath of office. Yet, President Trump, we know, has a good way of treating up as down and wrong as right. He tried to pull off the biggest election
God, the way
fraud
these people
in American
talk is
history
just
by
insufferable.
overturning the results of the 2020
These
election,
fucking
even as
critters,
he
dude.
insisted that his own fraud was in fact an effort to stop the steal, to stop a fraud, a vast conspiracy that he blamed on local and state officials of both political parties, the media, election officials, the judiciary, federal, state, members of Congress, many others. Anybody who wouldn't go along with him was part of the conspiracy. He violated his own oath of office by inciting mob violence to prevent Congress
no, hardcore
from
noob,
counting the
don't.
electoral college votes as we're assigned to do by the 12th Amendment and the Electoral Count Act, even as he attacked Vice President Pence at a rally
Oh,
for
no.
violating his oath of office and going along with an egregious assault on democracy.
Not democracy.
Now he
No.
argues that the Congress is violating his free speech rights when it was Donald Trump who incited an insurrectionist attack against us that halted speech and debate on the floor of the House and the Senate during the peaceful transfer of power, and that imperiled the very constitutional order that protects freedom of speech in the first place, along with all of our
See,
other
we're the ones that are
fundamental
actually
rights.
defending freedom of speech, guys.
It's a
Come
matter
on
of
now.
law. It's a matter of logic. President Trump's brazen attempt
It's a matter
to
of
invoke the First
logic.
Amendment now
Good Lord, these
won't
people
hold up
lie.
in any way. The basic flaw, of course, is that it completely ignores the fact that he was president of the United States, a public official. He swears an oath as president that nobody else swears. In exchange, he's given greater powers than anybody else in the entire country, maybe on earth. He or she promises to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States and our government institutions and our people.
Wait, our government
We
institutions.
all know
I don't.
the power we entrust to people in public office.
Hold
in
on.
Government offices.
Hold on, because that doesn't sound right. Let me fact check that real quick. Let's see. All right, so let's see. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to my best ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. So what you're saying is that what it's saying here is that the institutions of the government aren't actually in that oath of office. Really makes you think. But this would definitely fly within his first year law class. I wouldn't really want this guy as my teacher, to be honest.
Especially our presidents, comes with special obligations to uphold the laws and the integrity of our republic. And we all swear that oath.
No, you
But
don't.
what if a president publicly, and on a daily basis advocated replacing the Constitution with a totalitarian form of government?
Wait, he
And
did?
urged states to secede from the Union, and swore an oath
Did
of
he?
loyalty to a foreign leader or foreign government. Well, as a private citizen, you couldn't do anything about people using those words to advocate totalitarianism, to advocate secession from the Union, to swear an oath of personal loyalty to a foreign leader or a foreign government. You couldn't. That's totally protected. If you tried to prosecute somebody for that, as a prosecutor, you would
What?
lose. But it is simply inconceivable, unthinkable, that a president could do any of these things. Get up and swear an oath to foreign governments or leaders, advocate totalitarianism,
This guy's an
advocate
idiot.
secession, and not be impeached for it. It's just unthinkable.
Is that
could
Bumblebee?
happen.
No.
Would that violate their First Amendment rights? The opposite view pressed here by President Trump's counsel would leave the nation powerless to respond to a president who uses the unmatched power, privilege, and prestige of his or her office, the famous bully pulpit, in ways that risk the ruin of the republic, all for his or her own ambition and corruption and lust for power. Everyone should be clear. There's nothing remotely
dude, this is
exotic
just
about what we're saying.
Factorio.
It should be common sense to everybody.
Oh,
common
it's just a
sense
common sense.
about this understanding. of
What
the
I
First
say
Amendment
is
as it
just
applies
common
to public
sense. Don't think
servants,
about it too
cops,
much.
Firefighters, teachers, everybody across the land. My daughter, who I mentioned earlier in the trial, she's a teacher in a public school. And courts have said teachers teach, but if they go off script and they start advocating totalitarianism, treason, or what have you, they're not living up to the duties of their office as teacher, they can be fired. Everybody knows that.
What?
And it happens all the time, by the way, including to cops and firefighters and people on the front lines. Happens all the time.
What?
In fact, it happened countless times to people fired by President Trump for their statements or ideas about things, including on election fraud, not long ago. There were people in the government who lost their jobs because the president didn't like what they said or what they wrote. Now, as I mentioned yesterday, and I can't help but repeat it, Justice Scalia got it exactly right on this. He wrote on these cases about how the First Amendment affects people who take on a public office, who take on public employment. And he summed it up like this. He said, you can't ride with the cops, but root for the robbers.
What?
You can't ride with the cops, but root for the robbers. That's what Justice Scalia said. And when it comes to the peaceful transfer of power, to the rule of law, to respecting election outcomes, our president, whoever he or she is,
You have received this
must
order and the conveyor
choose
belt,
the
which
side
can
of the
achieve full
Constitution.
automation now.
Must.
Use the conveyor belt
And not
to
the side
transport the piled
of the
up ores from the
insurrection
mining machine,
or the coup
and the
or anybody
sorter
who's
can
coming
deliver
against
the ores
us.
from the conveyor belt
And if
to the
he or
smelter
she
for
chooses the
automatic
wrong
smelting.
side, I'm sorry. There's nothing in the First Amendment or anywhere else in the Constitution that can excuse your betrayal of your oath of office.
This guy's
It's
kind
not
of
a free speech
crazy.
question. But there's more. Let's play make-believe and pretend that President Trump were just a run-of-the-mill private citizen, as my colleague Mr. Nagu said, just another guy at the rally who's just expressing a deeply unpopular opinion, because we shouldn't overlook the fact that while there were thousands of people in that violent mob, they represent a tiny, tiny, tiny part of less than 1% of the population, and the vast majority of the American people reject
shit. Sorry,
the
Fake
kind of
Hosh.
seditious mob violence that we saw on January 6th. But
Yo,
let's
big
say
shout out, POV, you came
that
to
you
the
were just another
impeachment
guy in
proceedings
the crowd
drunk.
that day.
Yeah.
It is a bedrock principle.
Dude, if he was drunk, that would be a lot better of an
nobody
explanation
can
for
incite
this.
a riot. First Amendment doesn't protect it. Key case, Brandenburg versus Ohio. There's no First Amendment protection for speech directed to inciting or
When putting a
producing
conveyor
imminent
belt,
lawless
all you
action
need to do
and
is
likely to
determine the
produce such
starting
action.
point and the end point of it.
And for
In
all the
addition,
reasons you've heard,
use the up arrow
based on
to lift
the
up one
voluminous,
and use the down arrow
comprehensive,
keys to drop down one.
totally
After the
unrefuted,
conveyor
and we
belt
think
is lifted,
irrefutable, but we're
press
eager to hear our
keypad 0
colleagues,
to
based on
reset
all
the
the evidence you've
construction
heard,
of the conveyor belt
and
to
for all
the
the reasons
ground.
you've heard,
If you don't want the conveyor belt to
that
be attached to the
definition
building,
of
you can try holding down
proscribable
the shift
speech
key.
fits President Trump's conduct perfectly. This is a classic case of incitement. And you don't have to take my word for it. The 144 free speech lawyers Mr. Neguse mentioned, who include many of the nation's most dedicated, most uncompromising free speech
Again,
advocates,
appeal to
unlike
authority.
Mr. Trump, of course, but these people agree that there is a powerful case for conviction under the Brandenburg Standard, even if the President of the United States were just to be treated like some guy in the crowd. And they add, the First Amendment is no defense to the article of impeachment leveled against the former president. And I mention the Brandenburg Standard not because it applies here. Of course it doesn't, since this is an impeachment. It's not a criminal trial, and there's no risk of jail time. Let's be clear about that. The president doesn't go to jail for 1 week, 1 day, 1 hour, or 1 minute based on impeachment and conviction and disqualification from further
So
office.
you kind of understand that, like, this would
Rather, I
fly in a
mention
legal
it
proceeding.
to emphasize that absolutely nobody in America would be protected by the First Amendment.
Yes,
if
they
did
definitely
all the
should
things that
be.
Donald Trump did. Nobody made Donald Trump run for president and swear an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution on January 20th, 2017. But when he did, by virtue of swearing that oath and entering this
Thank
high
God, these
office, he took
people
upon himself
are
a
just
duty
fucking
to affirmatively
shameless.
take care that our laws would be faithfully executed under his leadership. All of the laws against federal destruction of property, all of the laws. We expected him in everything he said and everything he did to protect and preserve and defend our constitutional system, including the separation of powers.
God, these people suck so
But
much,
instead,
dude.
he betrayed us. And as Representative Cheney said, it was the greatest betrayal of a presidential oath in the history of the United States of America. The greatest.
Yeah, okay.
As I mentioned yesterday, President Trump is not even close to the proverbial citizen who falsely shouts fire in a crowded theater.
That's
he
not
is
a
like the now proverbial
Precedent.
municipal fire chief who incites a mob to go set the theater on fire and not only refuses to put out the fire, but encourages the mob to keep going.
How did he
as the
encourage anybody to
blaze
keep
spreads.
going?
We would hold that fire chief accountable. We would forbid him from that job ever again, and that's exactly what must happen here. There are hundreds of millions of citizens
God, these
who can
people
be president.
suck so badly,
Donald Trump
dude.
has disqualified himself, and you must disqualify him too. Just like the
I
fire
hate
chief
these people, dude. They're not human.
who sends the mob,
at this
President
point.
Trump perverted his office by attacking the very Constitution he was sworn to uphold. In fact, that's one reason why this free speech rhetoric at this trial is so insidious. His conduct represented the most devastating and dangerous assault by a government official on our Constitution, including the First Amendment in living memory. We wouldn't have free speech
The sorter is a
or any other
transportation
rights if we didn't have the rule of
connection
law,
facilities.
peaceful
It will
transfer of
automatically
power,
transport
and a
them as long as the
democracy
supply
where the
facility
outcome of
and
the
the receiving
election
facility are
is
bridged.
accepted by the candidate who lost. We had it all the way up until 2020. And the central purposes of the First Amendment are
God.
democratic self-government and civic truth.
This like
Two
pearl
purposes
clutching is
that President
embarrassing,
Trump sought
dude.
to undermine, not advance.
Holy shit.
In the course of his conduct, as we have definitively demonstrated at this trial, the violence he incited threatened all of our freedoms. It threatened the very constitutional order that protects free speech, due process, religious free exercise, the right to vote, equal protection, and the many other fundamental rights that we all treasure and cherish as citizens of the United States. The First Amendment does not create some superpower immunity from impeachment for a president who attacks the Constitution in word and deed while rejecting the outcome of an election he happened to lose. If anything, President Trump's conduct was an assault on the First Amendment and equal protection rights that millions of Americans exercised when they voted last year, often under extraordinarily difficult and arduous circumstances.
Yeah, the right to vote is enshrined in the
protects
First
the right
Amendment,
of the people
dude.
to speak about the great issues of our day, to debate during elections, and then to participate in politics by selecting the people who will be our leaders. And remember, in American democracy, those of us who aspire and attain to public office are nothing but the servants of the people. Nothing. Not the masters
no,
of the people.
you're
We have no
mad
kings
because
here.
your
We have no
subjects
czars.
like
Here the people govern,
rose
President
up
Ford
against
said.
you, dude.
The people.
Nice try.
Most important words of the Constitution are the first three, we the people. But all this
God.
means little if a president who dislikes the election results can incite violence to try to replace and usurp the will of the people as expressed in the states, ignore the judicial branch of government, and then run over the legislative branch of government with a mob. President Trump's high crimes and misdemeanors sought to nullify the political rights and sovereignty of the American people. Our right as a people to deliberate, to form opinions, to persuade each other, to vote, and then to decide who our president will be. The sovereignty of the people. That's an attack on the First Amendment, I would say. In addition, President Trump's actions were a direct attack on our own freedom of speech here in the Capitol. Members of Congress are sent here to speak for their constituents. That's why we have our own little mini free speech clause, the speech and debate clause. That's literally our job. We come here and represent the views of our people. The attack that President Trump incited forced members of Congress to stop speaking and to literally flee for our lives and the lives of our staffs and our families. The man whose statements and actions halted speech in Congress, speech related to the peaceful transfer of power, has no right to claim that free speech principles prevent this body from exercising its constitutional powers to hold him accountable for his offense against us. You know, Voltaire said famously, and our founders knew it, I may disagree with everything you say, but I will defend with my life your right to say it. President Trump says, because I disagree with everything you say, I will overturn your popular election and incite insurrection against the government. And we might take a moment to consider another Voltaire insight, which a high school teacher of mine told me when a student asked, when was the beginning of the Enlightenment? And she said, I think it was when Voltaire said, anyone who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. There's no merit whatsoever to any of the free speech rhetoric, the empty free speech rhetoric you may hear from President Trump's lawyers. He attacked the First Amendment. He attacked the Constitution. He betrayed his oath of office. Presidents don't have any right to do that. It's forbidden, so that our republic may survive. The people are far more important than that. The precedent he asked you to create, which would allow any future president to do precisely what he did, is self-evidently dangerous. And so there can be no doubt, none at all, the president lacks any First Amendment excuse or defense or immunity. He incited a violent insurrection against our government. He must be convicted. And now I'm going to call up Representative Dean, who will explain why, contrary to the president's claims, the House provided him with all the process that was due to him in this impeachment process. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Liu is going to do that.
Thank you for your time and your attention. We all heard President Trump's attorneys on Tuesday, and as part of President Trump's efforts to avoid talking about his own conduct,
Pedlu looks like he
to
has
avoid
like
talking about anything
looks like he
related to this
has like
constitutional
fetal
crime,
alcohol
we expect
syndrome.
that President Trump will raise process objections. His due process claims are without merit. Under the Constitution, the House has, quote, the sole power of impeachment. That provision confirms that the House functions as a grand jury or a prosecutor. The House decides whether to bring charges.
You built a storage.
Now, in
which can
other
be used to
impeachment
store cargo.
cases, the House has provided
manually
certain
store or
deliberative
use the sorter
and
to
procedural
automatically
privileges
stock the
to
cargo.
the person being impeached. But those are exactly that, privileges. They are discretionary. The House has the power to decide its own rules, how it wants to pass the article of impeachment. And in this case, the House debated the article of impeachment and passed it
Debated.
on a bipartisan vote. I'm a former prosecutor. I just want to add that
You probably sucked
I've
at your
had
job,
the opportunity
dude.
to decide whether to bring charges. And when you see a crime committed in plain view, prosecutors don't have to spend months investigating before they bring charges. I
What?
note that in this case, in fact, hundreds of people have been arrested and charged by prosecutors for the violence on January 6th.
What?
There was no reason for the House to wait to impeach the man at the very top that incited the violence. I also like to emphasize that the House had good reason to move quickly. This was an exigent circumstance. This was not a case where there was hidden conduct or some conspiracy that required months and maybe years of investigation. This case does not raise very complicated legal issues. The gravity of the president's conduct demanded the clearest of responses from the legislature, particularly given that the president was still in office at the time the House approved this article, and rumors of further violence echoed around the country. They
What?
still do.
No, they don't.
There must be absolutely no doubt that Congress will act decisively against a president that incites violence against us. That is why the House moved quickly here. And President Trump, who created that emergency, cannot be heard to complain that the House impeached him too quickly for the emergency he caused.
God,
Another
his
point on the due
pronunciation is
process
really
question.
weird. Does he have some sort of learning disorder?
Earlier in this trial, President Trump's attorneys suggested that the House somehow deliberately delayed the transmission of this article of impeachment. That is simply not accurate. When the House adopted this article of impeachment on a bipartisan vote, we were ready to begin trial. But the Senate was not in session at the time. And when we inquired as to our options, Senate officials told us clearly and in no uncertain terms that if the clerk of the House attempted to deliver the article of impeachment to the Secretary of the
Matrix
Senate
Lab.
before
You
the
can
Senate
use it to make
reconvened,
super matrices
that the
or
clerk of
research
the House
technologies that
would
require
have
them
been
to
turned
unlock.
back at the
The
door.
super matrices are the source
That's
code
why the
of
trial did
center
not
brain
begin then.
for maintaining the homework.
It's another reason
You
why
can
the
upload
president's
as many
objections
super
of due
matrices
process
to the
are
center brain as
meritless.
possible. You can be benefited
And
to unlock
finally,
more
let me just
actual world
conclude
technologies by
that
operating the home world
you all are
simultaneously.
going to see and have seen a full presentation of evidence by the House, and you're going to hear a full presentation by the president's attorneys. You're going to be able to ask questions. The Senate has the sole power to try all impeachments. President Trump is receiving any and all process that he is due right here in this chamber.
As long as you say it must be so, right?
Mr. President, Senators, in just a moment, my colleague, Mr. Neguse, will return to show that we've established with overwhelming evidence that President Trump engaged in high crimes and misdemeanors. Before Mr. Neguse comes up, though, I'd like to emphasize what should be an uncontroversial point, but is really key to understand. If we have proven to you the conduct that we've alleged in this article, then President Trump has indeed committed a high crime and misdemeanor under the Constitution. Incitement of insurrection
You just
under
said
these
it wouldn't
circumstances
be-
is
it wouldn't pass a
undoubtedly, in the
legal
words of
standard.
George Mason from the Constitutional Convention, a great and dangerous offense against the Republic. Indeed, it is hard to think of a greater or more dangerous offense against the Republic than this one. So, to be very precise about this, I hope we all can agree today that if a president does incite a violent insurrection against the government, he can be impeached for it. I hope we all can agree
No.
that that is a constitutional crime. Another key point. While President Trump's lawyers may be arguing otherwise, the question here is not whether President Trump committed a crime under the federal code or DC law or the law of any state. Impeachment does not result in criminal penalties, as we keep emphasizing. No one spends a day in jail. There are not even criminal or civil fines. Centuries of history, not to mention the constitutional text, structure, and original intent and understanding, all confirm the teaching of James Wilson, another framer who wrote that impeachments and offenses
Wait, can they just go
come
like?
not within the sphere of ordinary jurisprudence. Simply put, impeachment was created for a purpose separate and distinct from criminal punishment. It was created to prevent and deter elected officials who swear an oath to represent America, but then commit dangerous offenses against our republic. That's a constitutional crime. And senators, what greater offense could one commit than to incite a violent insurrection at
They
our
can't
seat
even
of
pronounce the
government
word properly.
during the
Holy
peaceful
shit.
transfer of power? In circumstances where violence is foreseeable, where a crowd is poised for violence to provoke a mob of thousands to attack us with weapons and sticks and poles, to bludgeon
no.
and beat our law enforcement officers and to deface these sacred walls and to trash the place and to do so
deface
while
our
seeking to
sacred
stop
walls?
us
Okay.
from fulfilling our own oaths, our own duties to uphold the Constitution by counting the votes from our free and fair elections, and then to sit back and watch and delight
God, these
as
people suck, dude.
insurrectionists
They suck so
attack
much.
us, violating a
built a
sacred
smelter,
oath and engaging in
which
a
can smelt
profound
basic materials, such as
dereliction
iron,
and
goods,
desertion
copper
of
goods
duty.
automatically. While you want to make the raw materials
How can we
and
assure that our
products
commander-in-chief will
within and out of
protect,
our
preserve, and
forests,
defend us and our
you need to
Constitution
use sorters
if we
and
don't
conveyor
hold
belts.
a president accountable in a circumstance like this? What is impeachable conduct if not this? I challenge you all to think about
I
it.
think
If you think
Fuentes
this is
looked
not
good in that,
impeachable,
honestly.
What is? What would be? If President Trump's lawyers endorse his breathtaking assertion that his conduct in
After
inciting
selecting
these
those,
events was totally
you can use the
appropriate,
less than key to copy
and the Senate
recipe,
acquits
and the
Donald
greater
Trump,
than
then
key
any
to paste
president
the next
could
building that
incite
needs
and
to set
provoke
the same recipe.
insurrectionary violence against us again. If you don't find this a high crime and misdemeanor today, you have set a new terrible standard for presidential misconduct in the United States of America. The only real question here is the factual one. Did we prove that Donald Trump, while President of the United States, incited a violent insurrection against the government? Incitement, of course, is an inherently fact-based and fact-intensive judgment,
No.
which is why
Ben.
we commend you all for your scrupulous attention to everything that took place. But we believe that we have shown you overwhelming evidence in this case that would convince anyone using their common sense that this was indeed incitement.
You gotta love those
Meaning
weasel
that
words, dude.
Donald
They're
Trump's
common
conduct
sense. Like, if you're not
encouraged
agreeing
violence,
with us, you're not
violence was
engaging with
foreseeable,
common sense.
And he acted willfully in the actions.
It's very
that
it's very
encouraged
it's
violence.
very transparent.
Mr. Neguse will take you through that evidence again. Not the whole thing. We're almost done. We're almost done. But we don't
God, I
want it
wish
to
you
be
guys were
said
almost done.
they never proved this or they never proved that. Because my magnificent team of managers has stayed up night after night after night through weeks to compile all of the factual evidence, and we have put it before you. and we have put it before all of you in this public trial because we love our country that much.
Oh, wow. So brave.
Mr. Neguse will show you that we've proven our case and that President Trump
I hate
committed this impeachable
smug
offense
people, I think, the
that we
most.
impeached
Like,
him
it's
for on
the
January 13th.
smugness that's really obnoxious.
and that you should convict him. And when he's finished, I will return and explain why it's dangerous for us to ignore this and why you must convict, and then we will rest. Mr. Neguse.
Again, Neguse. That's such a silly name.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, good afternoon again. As my colleague, Lead Manager Raskin, mentioned, I know it's been a long few days, and I want to say thank you, that we're very grateful for your patience, for your attention, and the attention that you have paid to every one of our managers as they have presented our case. As Lead Manager Raskin mentioned, I hope, I trust that we could all agree that if a president incites a violent insurrection against our government, that that's impeachable conduct. So what I'd like to do,
I don't think he really
as we
did.
close our case, is just walk you through why our evidence overwhelmingly establishes that President Trump committed that offense.
Oh, man. Well, as long as you keep on
Now, as you
saying it, it must be
consider
true.
that question of whether the president incited an insurrection, there are three questions that reasonably come to mind. Was violence foreseeable? Did he encourage violence? And did he act willfully? And I'm going to show you why the answer to every one of those questions has to be yes. First, let's start with foreseeability. Was it foreseeable that the violence would erupt on January 6th if President Trump lit a spark? Was it
He lit the
predictable
spark.
that the crowd at the Save America rally was poised on a hair trigger for violence, that they would fight, literally, if provoked to do so? Of course it was. When President Trump stood up to that podium on January 6th, he knew that many in that crowd were inflamed, were armed, were ready
Armed
for
with
violence.
what?
It was an explosive situation, and he knew it. We've shown you the evidence on this point. You've seen it. The images, the videos, the articles, and the pattern, which show that the violence on that terrible day was entirely foreseeable. We've showed you how this all began with the big lie, the claim that the election was rigged, and that President Trump and his supporters were the
Again, like,
victims of a massive
oh, man, they
fraud,
really want to meme that into existence.
massive
The big
conspiracy
lie.
to rip away their votes. We've showed you how President Trump spread that lie, and how over the course of months, with his support and encouragement, it inflamed part of his base, resulting in death threats.
There is no fun in
real-world
debugging.
violence,
There's fun in movie
and
reviews.
increasingly
That's true. That's
extreme
very true.
calls to stop the steal. We established that after he lost the election, the president was willing to do just about anything to prevent the peaceful transfer of power. That he tried everything he could do to stop it. You'll recall the evidence on the screen. Him pressuring and threatening state election officials, attacking them to the point of literally calling them enemies of the state, threatening at least one of them with criminal penalties. Then
I don't think he did any of
attacking
that.
senators, members of Congress, all across the media, pressuring the Justice Department, prompting outcries from assistant U.S. attorneys, not to mention his own attorney general, reportedly telling him that the stolen election claims were, quote, BS, not my phrase, his. And then, as January 6th approached, he moved on to attacking his own vice president, openly and savagely. We recounted throughout that entire period all the ways in which President Trump inflamed his supporters with lies that the election was stolen. And as every single one of us knows, nothing in this country is more sacred, nothing, than our right to vote.
No, I'd say some of my other rights are more sacred, to be honest.
Have the President of the United States telling his supporters that their voice, that their rights as Americans were being stolen from them.
All right, so I need
ripped away. That made them angry. Angry enough to stop the steal, to fight like hell to
I need
stop
magnets
the steal.
too. Shit.
And we showed you this. You saw the endless tweets, the rallies, the statements encouraging and spreading that big lie. You saw that he did this over and over again with the same message each time. You must fight to win it back. You must never surrender, no matter what. And remember, each time that his supporters along the way showed violence, he endorsed it, encouraged it, praised it. All part of that same demand to stop the steal and fight like hell. Remember the video that Manager Plaskett showed you from Texas? Some of his supporters encircling a bus of campaign workers on a highway.
Oh, no.
People easily could have been killed.
You
Easily.
can now click the
Nobody
planet
was killed,
thumbnail
though.
in the
Let's
lower
just
did he
remember
do?
that. Nobody was actually
or press
killed.
the M key
He
to
tweeted
try
it
the planet view mode.
and made a joke about it at a rally. Called them patriots. Held them out as an example of what it means to stop the steal. When he told his supporters
Can I not make
to stop
magnets?
the steal, they took up arms to literally intimidate officials to overturn the election results. You saw the evidence, and so did he.
Oh, wait, or is it
And he
made
welcomed
by
it.
smelters?
And when President Trump attacked Georgia's Secretary of State for certifying the results,
Oh, my goodness. He attacked him and he
supporters
beat the shit
sent
out of that
death
guy.
threats. You saw those in great
Oh, wait,
detail
no, he
from
didn't.
Manager Dean. What did he do? He attacked the election officials further. When his supporters gathered together to have a second Million MAGA rally, that's the rally that Manager Plaskett showed you, a rally about the stolen election, he tweeted that the fight had just begun. What happened next? It's not rocket science. Fights broke out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Stabbings.
rocket science. I'm sure you would be
Serious
very...
violence.
These
Now,
are not
President
serious
Trump,
people,
like
dude.
all of us, he saw what happened at that rally. He saw all the violence, the burnings, the chaos. How did he respond? He tweeted praise of the event. And then, see it on the screen, he bought $50 million worth of ads to further promote his message to those exact same people.
Based.
He immediately joined forces with that very same group. He joined forces with the same people that had just erupted into violence. Was violence predictable?
Nope.
Was it obvious that
Nope.
the crowd on January 6th was poised for violence? Prepared for it?
Nope.
Absolutely. And this isn't just clear, looking back in time. It was widely recognized at the time. In the days leading up to January 6th, There were dozens, hundreds of warnings. And he knew it. He knew the rally would explode if provoked. He knew all it would take is a slight push.
Yeah, this is Dyson Sphere program.
Remember, you heard from Manager Plaskett, the chatter.
And
on
what
social
we're
media,
listening to is
websites that the Trump administration
the largest
monitored
public
and were known to
gaslighting
the
in
Trump
history.
operation. It showed that the people he invited to the January 6th rally took this as a serious call to arms. That this was not just any attack. It was to storm the Capitol if necessary, to stop the steal. And it wasn't just clear on these websites that the Trump administration was monitoring. I mean, the FBI issued reports about this as a credible threat, a threat to target us. Law enforcement made 6 arrests that
Oh
night
boy.
before. 6 arrests.
Oh no, 6 arrests. Oh
Newspapers across the
gosh.
city warned
Perish the thought.
of the risk of the violence. There can be no doubt that the risk of violence was foreseeable. And what did he do in the days leading up to the rally? Did he calm the situation? Ask yourself. I mean, did he call for peace? No. He didn't do that. He spread his big lie more. The most dangerous lie,
Think
as I
any more
mentioned, that
power,
Americans' votes
possibly?
were being stolen, and that the final act of theft would occur here in the Capitol. And then he assembled all of those supporters. He invited them to an organized event on a specific day, at a specific time, matched perfectly to coincide with the joint session of Congress, to coincide with the steal that he had told them to stop by any and all means.
Is there a way to like make it go around? Though?
Again,
That's what I want to know.
He was told by law enforcement and all over the news that these people were armed and ready for real violence. He knew it. I mean, he knew it perfectly well.
Like stutter
He had
more,
created
bitch.
this powder keg at his rally. He knew just how combustible that situation was. He knew there were people before him who had prepared, who were armed and armored. He knew
Oh,
they
gosh,
would jump to
armored.
violence at any signal, at any sign from him that he needed them to fight, that he needed them to stop the steal. And we all know what happened next. Second question. Did he encourage the violence? Standing in that powder keg, did he light a match? Everyone knows the answer to that question. The hours of video
Everyone
you all
knows the
watched
answer to that
leave
question.
No doubt. Just remember what he said on January 6th.
All of us here today do not want to see our election victory stolen. There's never been anything like this. It's a pure theft in American history. Everybody knows it. Make no mistake, this election was stolen from you, from me, and from the country.
Based.
At the opening of
We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't
Tech
concede
issues.
when
I'm
there's
reading the
theft
chat,
involved.
Grimstow tier. Don't worry.
And to use a favorite term that all of you people really came up with, we will stop the steal. We must stop the steal. We will not let them silence your voices. We're not going to let it happen. Not going to let it happen. Thank you. And you have to get your people to fight because you'll never take back our
I'm
country. with
literate. Shut
weakness.
up.
You have to show strength and you have to be strong. And we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
Oh, somebody get. Oh shit. They don't give notification noises on this. Yo, Based in Heaven with 2 chocolate elixir spells. Thank you, Based in Heaven. I appreciate it, dude.
The big lie that the election.
I'm looking at the restream chat, and it doesn't have like a like a dedicated thing on Trovo yet.
And fight like hell.
I'm sorry about that.
To stop that steal. You heard those phrases throughout the course of this trial. Video after video, statement after statement, telling his supporters that they should be patriots.
What happens if I
to
intersect
fight hard to stop the steal. And on that day, where did he direct the crowd's ire? He directed them here.
Can't do that.
To Congress. He quite literally, at one part of that speech, pointed at us.
No, he pointed at the Capitol building.
To fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
Yeah, watching this, I'm starting to think he was probably right about us not having a country anymore.
It wasn't rhetorical. He'd already made it perfectly clear that when he said fight, he meant it. And that when followers, in fact, fought, when they engaged in violence, that he'd praise and honor them as patriots. He implied that it was okay to break the law because the election was being stolen.
Well, to be fair, you've already implied that it's okay to break the law because cops
that Manager Dean showed you
are bad.
He told them, quote,
I guess, I don't know.
When you catch somebody in a fraud, you're allowed to go by very different rules.
Wait, did he say that or did somebody else say that?
Remember how all of his supporters, some of his supporters across social media were treating this as a war, talking about bringing in the cavalry? Well, President Trump made clear what those different rules were. He'd been making it clear for months.
So, let's have trial by combat.
Oh yeah, Rudy totally
job.
meant that. Yeah, okay.
He's got guts. You know what? He's got guts, unlike a lot of people in the Republican Party. He's got guts. He fights.
His message was crystal clear. And it was understood.
Your messaging is not crystal clear. It's very confusing.
By his followers. And we don't have to guess. We don't have to guess as to how they
you've already decided what the answer is.
Like, how people reacted to what he said. You saw them. And you saw the violence. It's pretty simple. He said it, and they did it. And we know this because they told us. They told us in real time during the attack. You saw the affidavits,
during the attack,
social media, on live TV. They were doing this for him because he asked them to. And it wasn't just insurrectionists who confirmed this. Many, many people, including current and former officials, immediately recognized that the president had incited the crowd, that he alone was capable of stopping the violence, that he did this and he had to call it off because he was the only one who could. Let's see what...
Nah, they just want jobs within the Beltway after all this shit. Because you guys are fucking sociopaths.
Representative Kinzinger and Representative Katko had to say.
I could not be sadder or more disappointed with the way our country looks at this very moment. People are getting hurt. Anyone involved in this, if you're hearing me, hearing very loud and clear, this is not the American way.
Mr. President, you have got to stop this. You are the only person who can call this off. Call it off.
Pretty simple. The president caused this protest to occur. He's the only one who can make it stop. what the president
I
said.
definitely
That's
called it a
enough.
protest. That's
The
good.
president has to come out and tell his supporters to leave the Capitol grounds and to allow the Congress to do their business peacefully. And anything short of that is an abrogation of his responsibility.
An abrogation?
How to tweet very aggressively.
That's some English right there,
one
dude.
of the weakest statements and one of the saddest days in American history.
The president's role in this insurrection is undeniable, both on social media ahead of January 6th and in his speech that day. He deliberately promoted baseless theories, creating a combustible environment of misinformation and division. To allow the President of the United States to incite this attack without consequences is a direct threat to the future of this democracy.
Oh my God.
Did the president encourage violence?
Fucking
Yes.
weenuses, dude.
No doubt that he did. Final question. Did the president act willfully in his actions that encouraged violence? Well, let's look at the facts. He stood before an armed, angry crowd known to be ready for violence at his provocation.
Known to be ready.
What did he do? He
Tell them to
provoked
go
them.
there peacefully.
He aimed them here, told them to fight like hell. And that's exactly what they did. And his conduct throughout the rest of that terrible day really only confirms that he acted willfully. I mean, that he incited the crowd and then engaged in a dereliction of duty while he continued inflaming the violence. And again, we don't have to guess what he thought because he told us. Remember the video he released at 4:17 p.m.? Lead manager Raskin showed that to you yesterday. The one where he said, quote, "We had an election that was stolen from us." Remember the tweet that he put out just a couple hours later, 6:01 p.m. on January 6th. You've seen it many times. You could see it on the slide. That these are the things that happen when a sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away. That is what he was focused on. Spreading the big lie and praising the mob that attacked
They
us.
really like that phrase. I don't think it's gonna stick.
You heard Manager Cicilline
I
describe
don't think it's gonna
reports.
stick. I don't think it's
The
meme
president
worthy.
was delighted, enthusiastic,
I think it's sort of a forced
confused
fake meme.
that others didn't share his excitement as he watched the attack unfold on TV. He cared more about pressing his efforts to overturn the election than he did about saving lives, our lives. Look at what President Trump did that day after the rally. It's important. He did virtually nothing. We've seen, Manager Castro mentioned this, that when President Trump wants to stop something, he does so simply, easily, quickly. But aside from 4 tweets and a short clip during the over 5-hour-long attack, he did nothing. On January 6th, he didn't condemn the attack, didn't condemn the attackers, didn't say that he would send help to defend us,
Oh my
defend law
God.
enforcement. He didn't react to the violence with shock or horror or dismay as we did.
He wasn't shocked or horrified
He didn't
enough.
immediately rush to Twitter and demand in the clearest possible terms that the mob disperse, that they stop it, that they retreat. Instead, he issued messages in the afternoon that sided with them.
Good.
The insurrectionists who had left police officers battered and bloodied. He reacted exactly the way someone would react if they were delighted, and exactly unlike how a person would react if they were angry at
Good.
how their followers were acting. Again, ask yourself how many lives would have been saved, how much pain and trauma would have been avoided if he had reacted the way that a president of the United States is supposed to act.
In lockstep with the elites. Don't forget who pays
There
your
are
fucking...
two parts
Yeah, okay.
of President Trump's failure here, his dereliction of duty, that I just have to emphasize for a moment. First is what he did to Vice President Mike Pence, the Vice President of the United States of America. His own Vice President was in this building with an armed mob shouting, "Hang him." The same armed mob that set up gallows outside. You saw those pictures.
Okay, good. We're in
And
good
what did
power
President Trump do?
capacity right now.
He attacked him more. He singled him out by name.
Oh man.
It's
Oh.
honestly hard to fathom. Second, our law enforcement. The brave officers who were sacrificing their lives to defend us, who could not evacuate or seek cover because they were protecting us. I'm not going to go through again what my fellow managers showed you yesterday, but let me just say this. Those officers serve us faithfully and dutifully, and they follow their oaths.
You
They
spit
deserve
on them on a
president
regular...
who upholds his.
You spit
who
on
would
them
not
regularly
risk
when it's
their
politically
lives
convenient.
and safety to retain power. A president who would preserve, protect, and defend them. But that's not what he did. When they, the police, still barricaded and being attacked with poles, he said in his video to the people attacking them, "We love you. You're very special."
That's all they
What
wanted to
more
hear.
could we possibly need to know about President Trump's state of mind? Senators, the evidence is clear. We showed you statements, videos, affidavits that prove President Trump incited an insurrection that he alone had the power to stop. And the fact that he didn't stop it, the fact that he incited a lawless attack and abdicated his duty to defend us from it, the fact that he actually further inflamed that mob, attacking his vice president while assassins were pursuing him in this capital,
Assassins.
more than requires conviction and disqualification. We humbly ask you to convict President Trump for the crime for which he is overwhelmingly guilty of.
God, I hate these people.
Because if you don't, if we pretend this didn't happen, or worse,
Bitcoin assassins on their
if we let it
mobility
go
scooter.
unanswered, who's to say it won't happen again?
Oh, wow. Oof, the fear. Oh.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, first of all, thank you for your close attention and seriousness of purpose that you've demonstrated over the last
None of
few
these
days.
are
Thank you
serious
also for your
people.
courtesy to the House managers as we've come over here, strangers in a strange land, to make our
Shut
case
up.
before this distinguished and august body. We are about to close, and I am proud that our managers have been so disciplined and so focused. I think we are closing somewhere between 5 and 6 hours under the time that you have allotted to us. But we think we have been able to tell you everything we need to say. We will obviously have the opportunity to address your questions and then to do to do a final closing when we get
Yeah,
there.
it's all been
I just
NPC
wanted to leave
memes.
you
Like,
with a
that's,
few
you know,
thoughts.
what are you gonna do, right?
And again, I'm not going to re-traumatize you by going through the evidence.
Re-traumatize
once again. I just
you.
wanted to leave you with a few thoughts to consider as you enter upon this very high and difficult duty that you have
You have
to
unlocked the
render
universe
impartial
exploration.
justice
Now
in
you
this
can click
case,
the
as you have
details
all
display
sworn to
button
do.
in the lower right corner of the screen
And I wanted to
open
start simply
real-time
by saying
distribution details of
that
the ore
in the
veins.
history of humanity, democracy is an extremely rare and fragile and precarious and transitory thing. Abraham Lincoln knew that when he spoke from the battlefield and vowed that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. But he was speaking not long after the Republic was created, and he was trying to prove that point, that we would not allow it to perish from the earth. For most of history, the norm has been dictators, autocrats, bullies, despots,
you guys.
tyrants, cowards
Yeah,
who
you
take
guys.
over our governments. For most of the history of the world. And that's why America is such a miracle. We were founded on the extraordinary principles of the inalienable rights of the people and the consent of the governed and the fundamental equality of all of us.
God, the way that he like
You know, when Lincoln
lists
said,
is the worst.
government of the people, by the people, and for the people, and he hearkened back to the Declaration of Independence when he said 7 years ago. He knew that that wasn't how we started. We started imperfectly. We started as a slave republic. Lincoln knew that.
Oh my God.
But he was struggling to make the country better.
Uh-huh.
And however flawed the founders were as men in their times, they inscribed in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution all the beautiful principles that we needed to open America up to successive waves of political struggle and constitutional change and transformation in the country. So we really would become something much more like Lincoln's beautiful vision of government of the people, by the people, and for the people, the world's greatest multiracial, multi-religious, multi-ethnic constitutional democracy.
Yeah,
the
that's
envy
what
of the
Lincoln
world.
envisioned. Okay, buddy. Yeah, okay.
As Tom Paine
That's the
said,
big lie
"An
right
asylum
there."
for humanity, where people would come. Think about the preamble. Those first 3 words, pregnant with such meaning. We the people. And then all of the purposes of our government put into that one action-packed sentence. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and preserve to ourselves and our posterity the blessings of liberty. And then, right after that first sentence, the mission statement for America in the Constitution, what happens? Article 1. The Congress is created. All legislative powers herein
Oh my
are reserved
God.
to the Congress of the United States. You see what just happened? The sovereign power of the people to launch the country and create the Constitution.
truly
flowed
is
right
just
into
so
Congress. And then
painful.
you get in Article 1, Section 8, comprehensive, vast powers that all of you know so well. The power to regulate commerce domestically, internationally. The power to declare war. The power to raise budgets and
The
taxes.
idea that these
and
people
to
run it
spend
is,
money.
like,
The power
insane.
to govern the seat of government. And on and on and on. And then even in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 18, and all other powers necessary and proper to the execution of the foregoing powers. That's all of us. And then you get to Article 2, the President. 4 short paragraphs. And the 4th paragraph is all about what? Impeachment. How you get rid of a president who commits high crimes and misdemeanors. But what's the core job of the president? To take care that the laws are faithfully executed.
No. His duty is to
And our
defend the
framers were so
Constitution
fearful
and enact it.
of presidents becoming tyrants and wanting to become kings and despots that they put the oath of office right into the Constitution. They inscribed it into the Constitution to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. We've got the power to impeach the president. The president doesn't have the power to impeach us. Think about that.
Yeah, he has the
Popular
right to
branch of
veto your
government
bullshit.
has the power to impeach the president. The president does not have the power to impeach us. And as I said before, all of us who aspire and attain to public office are nothing but the servants of the people. And the way the framers would have it is the moment that we no longer acted as servants of the people, but as masters of the people, as violators of the people's rights, that was the time to impeach, remove, convict, disqualify, start all over again.
Yeah.
Because the
So
interests
when
of
are
the
you
people
getting
are
out of
so
here,
much
buddy?
greater than the interests of one person. Any one person, even the greatest person in the country. The interests of the people are what count. Now, when we sit down and we close, our distinguished counterparts, the defense counsel, who have waited very patiently, and thank you, will stand up and seek to defend the president's conduct on the facts, which I think they will. It has already been decided by the Senate on Tuesday that the Senate has constitutional jurisdiction over this impeachment case brought to you
Yeah,
by the
that's
United
not one of
States
your
House of
powers,
Representatives.
asshole.
So we've put that jurisdictional constitutional issue to bed. It is over. It's already been voted on.
It's settled science.
This is a trial on the facts of what happened. An incitement, as we said, is a fact-intensive investigation and judgment that each of you will have to make. We've made our very best effort to set forth every single relevant fact that we
These
know
people
in the
suck
most
so much,
objective
dude.
and honest light. We trust and we hope that the defense will understand
Also, somebody sent me a
the
message.
constitutional gravity and solemnity of this trial by focusing like a laser beam on the facts and not return to the constitutional argument that's already been decided by the Senate. Just as a defense lawyer who loses a motion to dismiss on a constitutional basis in a criminal case must let that go and then focus on the facts which
Oh,
are being
shut
presented
up.
by the prosecutors in detail, they must let this constitutional jurisdictional argument go.
No, they must not,
just because
actually.
it's frivolous and wrong, as nearly every expert scholar in America opined.
Oh,
but because
go
it's
fuck
not
yourself.
relevant to the jury's
Dude,
consideration
if
of
these
the
people
facts
choked
of
on
the
their
case.
food and died today, I would be so happy.
Our friends must work to answer all of the overwhelming, detailed, specific, factual, and documentary evidence we have introduced of the president's clear and overwhelming guilt in inciting
These people
violent
are the freaking
insurrection
worst, dude.
against the Union. Now, Donald Trump last week turned down our invitation to come testify about his actions, and therefore we've not been able to ask him any questions directly as of this point. Therefore, during the course of their 16-hour allotted presentation, we would pose these preliminary questions to his lawyers, which I think are on everyone's minds right now, in which we would have asked Mr. Trump himself if he had chosen to come and testify about his actions and inactions when we invited him last week. One,
Oh,
why did
really,
President
Grandma, too? I
Trump
would
not
never have
tell
known.
his supporters to stop the attack on the Capitol as soon as he learned of it? Why did President Trump do nothing to stop the attack for at least 2 hours after the attack began? As our constitutional commander-in-chief, why did he do nothing to send help to our overwhelmed and besieged law enforcement officers for at least 2 hours on January 16th after the attack began? On January 6th, why did President Trump not at any point that day condemn the violent insurrection and the insurrectionists? And I'll add a legal question that I hope his distinguished counsel will address. If a president did invite a violent insurrection against our government, as of course we allege and think we've proven in this case, but just in general, If a president incited a violent insurrection against our government, would that be a high crime and misdemeanor? Can we all agree at least on that? Senators, I've talked a lot about common sense in this trial because I believe that's all you need to arrive at the right answer here. You know, when Tom Paine wrote Common Sense, the pamphlet that launched the American Revolution, he said that common sense really meant two different things. One, common sense is the understanding that we all have without advanced learning and education. Common sense is the sense accessible to everybody, but common sense is also the sense that we all have in common as a community. Senators, America, we need to exercise our common sense about what happened. Let's not get caught up in a lot of outlandish lawyers' theories here. Exercise your common sense about what just took place in our country. Tom Paine wasn't an American, as you know, but he came over to help us in our great revolutionary struggle against the kings and queens and the tyrants. And in 1776, in the crisis, he wrote these beautiful words. It was a very tough time for the country. People didn't know which way things were going to go. Were we going to win? Against all hope? Because for most of the rest of human history, it had been the kings and the queens and the tyrants and the nobles lording it over the common people. Could political self-government work in America was the question. And Paine wrote this pamphlet called The Crisis, and in it he said these beautiful words. And with your permission, I'm going to update the language a little bit pursuant to a suggestion of Speaker Pelosi, so as not to offend modern sensibilities, okay? But he said, these are the times that try men and women's souls. These are the times that try men and women's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will shrink at this moment from the service of their cause and their country. But everyone who stands with us now will win the love and the favor and the affection of every man and every woman for all time. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered, but we have this saving consolation. The more difficult the struggle, the more glorious in the end will be our victory. Good luck in your deliberations.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I have two, we're going to do the adjournment resolution in a moment. I have two other things that we have to do. They're quick. First, Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that it be in order to make several unanimous consent requests as if in legislative session.
The objection is ordered.
I ask unanimous consent that on Friday, February 12th, from 10:30 to 11:30 a.m., that notwithstanding
Sounds like
adjournment,
insane
the Senate be able to
wait,
receive
what?
House messages and executive matters, committees be authorized to report legislative and executive matters, and senators be allowed to
we're
submit
definitely
statements
watching
for the
revisionist
record,
history
introduce
today.
bills and resolutions, and make co-sponsor requests, and where applicable, the Secretary of the Senate, on behalf of the presiding officer, be permitted to refer such matters.
The objection is allowed.
And a second request, poignantly appropriate at this moment. I ask unanimous consent that pursuant to the order of the Senate of January 24th, 1901, the traditional reading of Washington's farewell address take place on Monday, February 22nd, following the prayer and pledge. Further, that Senator Portman be recognized to deliver the address.
Is there objection? Not hearing objection, it's ordered.
And finally, Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent the trial adjourn until 12 noon tomorrow, Friday, February 12th, and this also constitute the adjournment of the Senate.
Hearing an objection, without objection, it's ordered. Senate's adjourned.
House impeachment managers have concluded their case against former President Donald Trump in the impeachment trial, ending some 5 hours earlier than the 16 hours they had allotted
I like that
to
comic
appear
too.
on C-SPAN 2. As the trial wraps up for today, we'll open up our phone lines to hear from you as the House managers can.
See what Nick's take is.
Did
on
really
all
bad
this.
that day. I don't think he'll do that bad again, in all honesty. If he does, I mean, he should quit forever. And maybe maybe ask Elon Musk for a Mars ticket or something. Rob Wynn says witnesses are under oath, but there were no witnesses here. Automata says, should probably ask which people who entered the building were assassins and what charges have been brought against them. Are they still free? Red Guy says incitement to insurrection equals incitement to overthrow the government equals incitement to overthrow himself. Jordan Jones says, so some chick apparently put Gorilla Glue in her hair. Did you guys see that? She thinks she can sue the company. Yes, I saw that. You do commercial litigation. You think she has any products liability case? I mean, that's not really commercial litigation. It's personal injury, but I don't think she's got a good one.
I don't really look. You know what? The reality is, when it comes to personal injury and probably products liability, also, you're really fixating on the size of the injury compared to the amount of liability. This is one of the things when I was first practicing law. I was working for a PI firm for a few months, and
That old guy's
they
teetering
told
on
me
the
that it's really
precipice
about the
between
size of the
this
injury,
life and the
not
next. Yeah,
amount of
probably.
not the amount of
I've
liability.
tried to call into C-SPAN. It doesn't
he told me a
work very
story where
well.
they had a guy who was drunk and climbed up his the fire escape outside his girlfriend's building, started trying to rattling the windows and trying to break into her house, and she like kept him locked out, and he ended up falling off the fire escape like 3 stories and breaking both his legs and his spine. And I mean, the guy was basically a felon. He's drunk and climbing up on the outside of the fire escape and trying to break in. He had a terrible accident that resulted from it because of the extent of his injuries, even though their liability was like a tiny possibility of happening. The fear of that is what made them settle for like $1.5 million.
Right.
Just because they were like, if we lose on the liability here, we're going to face like $25 million. So we don't want to do that. So let's just like settle it up. And they gave like a ridiculously high amount of damages and that's the way it is in New York, at least. And I suspect in many jurisdictions that the insurance companies and these bigger corporations, when you have a big liability, there is a nice chance that they're going to settle just in case they get a wacky jury, which will just end up saying let's hurt the big guy and help this little girl here and get her some money.
If she has even a reasonably shrewd lawyer, and she doesn't get too greedy, she should be able to walk away with a settlement from this case. Pretty simple.
Yeah, I would say
like
I would say a 6-figure settlement probably.
Yeah, I mean Gorilla Glue has. This is gonna sound dumb, but Gorilla Glue has no reason not to offer her like $250,000, just straight out. Like, here,
leave us alone. Just leave us alone.
Yeah, we will settle and apologize, and we'll promise to review our
put a notice,
warnings.
Yeah,
and
don't put this in your hair.
We'll add hair to notice. So sorry this happened to you, type thing.
Yeah.
That would be an easy way out of this. If she's
you start
not
off
crazy,
if you're Gorilla Glue, you start off by offering $10,000, but you do work up your way up pretty quick, because if you offer $250,000, they figure you're going to give them $5 million. So that's where you got to sort of start.
Sorry, I should have clarified. They should be willing to give her $250,000. They should offer. They should offer low enough that they can expect to meet in the middle at $250,000. But she has to be reasonable. She's going to be fueled potentially by social media and all of the attention she's getting. And if she gets an attorney with dollar signs in his eyes, and they go, "Oh no, this is easily a $10 million claim from all the humiliation you brought on yourself by broadcasting this to the world,"
like an idiot. Yeah.
If something like that happens, it could really devolve. And if it went to court for strict liability, I think there's a very good chance she loses if it actually goes through the trial.
Yes, I agree with you on that. I think the liability problem that she has is that there's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to think that they have liability here.
Yeah. Now you guys gotta remember that yes, it's rewarding idiocy, but at the same time, it's going to cost Gorilla Glue more than $250,000 to fight this case. Like,
and then what? And then what if you get a
thank you for
crazy
the
jury which
thank you
says,
for the
yeah, they could have put a
Joycast,
notice. Why
Spencer.
didn't
How's
they
it going,
do that?
dude?
They would put a notice. This never would have happened.
right. And then they're out a whole lot because they get a punitive damage and ugh. Mark Owen says Psaki and Zuckerberg are twins. Can you verify? No one wants to verify that.
Mark
Man, I can build
Dice,
Matrix
Mark
slabs
Dice
now.
had that great picture as his icon of Mark Zuckerberg with Psaki hair. And hey, I had to like look twice at it.
Oh, I haven't
It was
seen
really
it.
funny.
That seems unsettling. Easy, thank you for the donation. Oh, she already got 50 grand from Gorilla Glue?
Oh, did she?
Well, I hope they were smart enough to give her that as a full settlement of her claims.
I'm sure they were. I'm sure they were.
Yeah, I hope so. Holy shit.
Good job, them. You see,
Yeah.
you were saying $250,000.
I mean,
They gotta wait for 20% of that.
I mean,
that is retarded.
I wouldn't have taken 50, I don't think, on her behalf. Maybe she didn't have a lawyer, and so she didn't have to pay out any.
It could depend on the jurisdiction, because New York, if you're in Kings or the Bronx, you know you're going to get a jury which is going to be very sympathetic to the little guy, and if you're in one of those jurisdictions, you're going to get a crazy, insane verdict number if you win, and everyone knows it. Everyone knows it, so it like totally changes the numbers you're talking about. If she's living in a place, in a jurisdiction where the settlements are never nearly that high, in that case, I could understand her lawyer saying, "Yeah, the best we'll get here, and if we get liability, will be like $1 million. So 50,000 is."
That's
really
so
not bad at all.
retarded.
Yeah. Satanic Potato says, I don't like being drunk either, Trump. I do like tea, though. Shout out to the Dragon's Treasure, eh? The guy is very good with customer service, and the tea is fantastic. I can't drink Lipton anymore. It just tastes acrid to me now. Oh, dude, yeah. Once you've had good tea, you can't go back to the bag stuff. And dragonstreasure.com, guys. Check it out. Night of Hopex says, I
should we watch
said
something
region,
else?
not religion. Oh, sorry. You read my chat wrong. Ding dong.
I figure we should probably watch something else. Jeez, there's like actually people watching me right now. What the fuck? Although the veto video, I also uploaded the veto video, in which people, just for people who wanted to watch it. We could watch something painfully stupid. You guys want to watch something painfully stupid? Oh no. We could watch okay, so we could watch Chris Chan, or we can watch our good buddy Slander Hall. Wait, I can build these on top of each other? Does that work for all the other things? No, okay, just the research lab. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Watch this. What's this? Hold on one second. We could watch. That link doesn't work, by the way, Grimatu. I keep on clicking on it. It doesn't work. All right, let's fix our. I think this will get all of our energy production off the way. There we go. That researches it a lot quicker. In fact, I don't really need this. I can just boop, 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 boop. There we go. No, I don't think there's any riots to watch.
This is 4K! How did they get you in 4K?
That ain't me.
How's it going?
This is 4K!
For the last day and a half, I've been getting tagged on Twitter by quite a lot of you, which I respect and I appreciate anyone who tags me on news stories so I could make videos on it. A lot of people were tagging me in the following post that says, I grew up without a father and I want my child to feel the pain, and we have a mom and a kid. Thankfully, someone covered the baby's face because there's a picture that shows the baby's face. But how we found the worst mom of 2021 or of all time. Well, not of all time. I mean, there's some pretty shitty moms. But this could definitely make like the top 50, maybe the top 100. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Is this real? I mean, the emojis kind of give it away, but like I previously mentioned, the girl didn't cover the baby's face. Had this person not censored it, this would have been the baby's face plaster all over it, which made me wonder, okay, is this real? Honestly, Twitter is AIDS. Twitter is a platform that no human should be on unless you're a content creator to talk to fellow content creators, or as a content creator to look for content.
This guy's voice is just boring and annoying to me. Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. Not my thing. Not my thing.
The data shows this is a planet without natural silicone veins. However, you can still obtain some by smelting stone ore. While you still need a massive silicone collection, you need to find a planet rich with silicone veins as soon as possible.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's like really fucked. Let's see. I'm not watching this. Yeah, I'm not watching that. Nice try. Nice try. All right, so let's find. We'll watch the Chris Chan documentary. Should we just start from the beginning? We could watch from the beginning. Either that, I can just have music on. Wait, what am I taking up power from now? Wait, I'm not researching anything, am I? Oh, wait. I am. Whoops. That's probably why it was consuming power. That makes a little bit more sense. Let's see. I want to make silicone, I guess, right? How do I make that? From rocks. I need rocks. I need lots and lots of rocks. I can do that, though. All right, let's see. Yeah, the video is very oy vey. I can't watch that. That's too much. That's too much, man. That's too much. You can get me in trouble now. I don't know. What should I watch? What should I play? Because I don't know. This doesn't seem like the most enjoyable game to watch people play, you know what I mean? I am very aware that I can be very boring sometimes. I wish there was a way to send, like, it quicker, you know what I mean? Actually, I think there is. If I do this. Let's try this. Alright, so I need more smelters, it seems.
A thermal power station. Such power facilities need to consume chemical energy fuels. If you want it to generate continuous and stable power, you need to ensure a sufficient fuel supply at all times.